And at number 10, with ghost children in the basement. A lot of people claim that their basements are haunted by evil spirits or ghosts that have unfinished business. Either way, it is extremely scary when you hear footsteps, screaming, or loud abrupt noises from the basement without any reasonable explanations. This is why when this happens, people install cameras with motion detection so they're able to get a notification when those mysterious and scary things happen in their basement. I stumbled across a really scary video of ghost children playing in someone's basement. Take a look for yourself. If this was me, I would never install a camera in the basement because I just don't want to know what's going on down there. But going back to the video, that was pretty creepy, so let's move on. Pet alligator bites its way into number 9. I've heard of a lot of people like to keep their pets in their homes, and sometimes they're kept in the basement. Why? I don't know. But this family isn't normal. On January of 2016, a repairman discovered a 6-foot, 200-pound alligator in the basement of a suburban home in Chicago. The alligator was their secret pet, who was sometimes taken out of his cage and put in the backyard. They had this alligator for 26 years without anyone ever knowing. The repairman was obviously stunned when he saw this monster alligator in the basement, so he called the police. They were able to remove the alligator, and the homeowners were charged with unlawful possession of an endangered species. I mean, is this real life right now? If I had an alligator in my basement, okay, actually let's stop it right there, because I would never have an alligator in my basement. But if I did, I would be fearing for my life every single day. I don't got time for that. I don't care that he's in a cage. They have insanely strong jaws that can easily break through like the little fencing. I think I would rather have a dog or a rabbit as a pet and not a man-eating machine. I'm just gonna put that out there. Move on into number 7, and this takes us over to creepy skeletons in the basement. The internet broke when a story about a creepy looking skeletons were found in a basement under an orphanage in London. These scary looking creatures looked like dead fairies, werewolves, and aliens that were preserved in glass jars. Imagine seeing this. Their flesh had been rotting away, and some of their wings were nailed to a display board. To make things even scarier, there was also sketches of the Jack the Ripper victims next to the real human heads and other organs that were well preserved. These nightmare objects were discovered by a bunch of construction workers who were doing some repairs on the home. They found several thousand small wooden boxes that were tightly sealed. So imagine how shocked they were when they first opened up the box. These extremely creepy corpses belonged to Thomas Theodore Maryland, who was known as a prominent biologist in the 1800s. If I was working that day, I would run out of the house so damn fast, I would probably beat Usain Bolt in a race. And I would definitely ask to like never work in basements ever again. It would be in my contract. So it looks like here you don't want to work in any basements. Why? Yeah, you don't want to know. In at number 1, we have a shadow person. A security guard was petrified when he heard a loud banging noises coming from the basement of a deserted football stadium. He decided to go down the dark staircase in order to investigate the suspicious noises, and he recorded the whole thing. When he panned his camera around, he saw a dark, shadowy figure quickly passing along some benches and then disappearing through the wall. And yeah, we have the footage for you guys. Take a look at this. I mean, come on, is this real life right now? The security guard didn't see this ghostly figure until after he reviewed the tapes. He said that the basement changing room door was being violently opened and closed by an unknown force inside of the room. The man was so terrified and stressed, so on the next day, he handed in his letter of resignation and found a different security job. You know what? Smart man. I would do the same thing if I were you, because hell no, I'm not doing that job.
Coming into number 10, we have Samar as well. Have you guys seen the movie The Ring? If so, wouldn't you run and hide as far as you possibly could away from this basement? I mean, In 2015, Reddit user Colintendo shared a link to his Imgur saying, "I have the ring in my basement." And on closer inspection, yeah, he does. That's the ring's well right there in the basement. I mean, I would say, Colin, get out of there, bro, or she probably will come and kill you in 7 days. Coming into number 9, we have a whole kitchen. How well off do you have to be to discover an entire servant's kitchen in your house that you'd never even noticed until now? I mean, seriously. This is quite the discovery. This is exactly what happened to Archie and Philippa Graham Palmer as they explored their property in Wales. Graham Palmer, I mean, they sound rich, don't they? Archie said that the basement had been a dumping ground for years, and it is thought that the room lay unused for 100 years. Imagine having that much living space. Oh my goodness. The kitchen was found behind some old junk and was left virtually untouched, with pots and pans still on the walls and cookbooks on the shelves. From a kitchen in a basement to the basement of a restaurant with a sick sense of humor, at number 8 we have a creepy gathering of dolls. Redditor Gravity Boy posted, "Found this in the basement of a restaurant I went to last night." Now the restaurant in question turns out to be Hanny's in Phoenix, Arizona. One fellow redditor looked at the picture and said, "It looks like Annabelle's reunion," which to be honest it totally does. It turns out that this is an art installation, but I really wouldn't want to be the one that interrupts this illicit miniature game of craps. I also hear that the restaurant has very interesting toilets in this location, but the dolls really freak me out. Coming into number 7, we have a 150-year-old signed photo of Abraham Lincoln. Can you imagine cleaning out your grandmother's basement to discover signed photographs of one of America's most famous presidents? On top of that, it was in an album with photos of other senators and cabinet members, and there were signatures. This is a piece of American history right here. So this is exactly what happened to a woman who appeared on British TV show The Antiques Roadshow. Presenter Wes Cowan valued the album at, wait for it, $100,000, which is a pretty big basement find. Coming into number 6, we have a priceless art piece. A dusty old painting was found in a basement of a deceased elderly couple in New Jersey in 2016. The small painting was just 9 inches tall and was discarded as worthless, but it actually turned out to be a painting by celebrated Dutch artist Rembrandt. The painting, called The Unconscious Patient, was spotted by 2 eagle-eyed art dealers and sold for $870,000 at auction, which actually is very cheap for a Rembrandt, which have traditionally been going for millions. Imagine $870,000 in your basement. Whew. The painting dates back to the mid-1600s and has since been put on display at the Getty Museum. Coming into number 5, we have a 90-kilo alligator. In 2016, an alligator was discovered living in a basement by a repairman who was working in a man's house in Lansing, Illinois. The gator had apparently been living down there for 26 years when he was discovered. I mean, imagine keeping an alligator in your basement for 26 years. The reptile belongs to Charles Price, who said that he walked it in his garden and fed it chicken breast. The gator had grown to 6 feet long when he was discovered by the worker. He was later seized and taken to an animal shelter, but like, imagine being the repair guy going down to someone's house and finding a gator in their basement. Seriously. Anyone for severed puppet heads at number 4. Hurrah! So this is another Reddit classic. A Redditor posted that they found this horrifying array in their basement behind the furnace. Some of you may say, how did they not know that this was behind the heater, but some people on this list had no idea they were housing a full kitchen, so here we have an array of disembodied puppet heads tied together with strings. Hip hip hooray for the person who constructed this to scare the living bejesus out of future residents. Oh, great! At number 3, we have a mass grave. When new owners of a home formerly resided in by Benjamin Franklin moved in, they found the grim discovery of 1,200 bone fragments in the soil below their basement. The house on Craven Street in London had fragments of bone dating back to the exact time when Benjamin Franklin lived there in the 1700s. It turns out that one of the founding forefathers of America wasn't a murderer, he just let this house be used as a secret anatomy school at the time. Back then dissecting bodies was illegal, so it was all in the name of science, which I can respect.
Alright, coming in at number 10 now, we have Joshua Rules. In 2015, a man took his brother along with him to go house hunting in Michigan when they stumbled across a dirty, wet and unfinished basement. They saw writing on the wall, and when they took a closer look, they realized that a child used to live down there. One wall read Josh's rules. Number 1, stop reading your walls. Number 2, no watching Isaiah through the hole. And number 3, no writing or drawing on the walls. Number 4, if you don't like these rules, go to number 0. Other messages said things like, don't climb into my room, or, and I think this one is the creepiest, stop watching me. The man posted all of these pictures to Reddit, where users came up with their theories ranging from schizophrenia to the supernatural. Very strange stuff either way. Next up at number 9 now, we have Satan. In 2015, Imgur user Bushi992 posted these pictures to Imgur of the basement and attic in the house that he and his friends had just moved into. As you can see, something went down here. The symbols appear to be satanic in nature. There were pentagrams, rams, snakes, and strange messages on the wall, such as, for I am the earth and within me the devil burns. Many people asked them why didn't they ask to see the attic and basement before they moved in. I think that's a very good point. I'm not sure if I could sleep knowing this stuff was below me. At number 8 now, we have the tape. Reddit user Lumberjack shared pictures of a small basement passageway that he discovered in his new home. Inside it, he found a locked door, which concealed an entrance to a small room. Inside that room was a briefcase and a safe. He opened that and found some money, a few watches, and videotapes. The tapes had writing on the front of them. One of them simply read, no, 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 no. He handed everything over to the police for investigation. Would you guys have done the same, or would you have ignored the message and watched the tape? I'm not sure if I could have. Okay, next up at number 7 now, we have the Tombstone. In 2016, a student from Massachusetts made a grim discovery in their university house basement, a grave. Derek Crook was interviewed about the tombstone next to the boiler in his home. The message on it says, this marks the burial site of Jabez Hardin, who served in the War of 1812. Now he died in 1879 at the age of 83. At first, the housemates were very creeped out by this find, but now James actually quite enjoys shocking visitors to the house by randomly announcing there's a grave in the basement. Maybe that's just his coping mechanism. Next up at number 6, we have graffiti. In 2012, Reddit user Tallest Waldo shared a creepy discovery he found in his basement. This writing, accompanied by some very strange symbols. Another Reddit user identified the symbols as being part of occult spellcasting. They suggested this basement used to be a cult member's ritual workspace. After meditating on the symbols for a while, it seems they had an epiphany and wrote the message that we can now see on the wall. I can kind of make out something about their soul being fire, and the time has come to use the gateway they have opened. What do you guys think it says? I'm not even sure if I want to know. At the number 4 spot now, we have Mould. In 2005, a family who moved into a new home were decorating one of the rooms when they noticed the bookcase was a little bit loose. They nudged it and it swung open to reveal a secret passageway. Inside, they found a note that read, hello, if you're reading this, then you found the secret room. The letter went on to explain how they were the previous tenant of the house but had to move out because of mold, which made their children very sick. The new owners who were reading this actually listened to the warning and moved out because of the mold too. They even sued the broker who sold them the house. I'm sure they're happy they got the warning, but I would be a little bit creeped out to find a note that congratulated me for finding the secret room. Very weird stuff. Alright, next up at number 3 now, we have the asylum. Now, not much is known about the picture you're about to see or even who took it, but I think that kind of adds to the whole mysterious allure of it. This was the writing found on the basement wall of an abandoned mental asylum. It reads, I never knew much about people until I took one apart just to see how it worked. Many commenters online have speculated who exactly wrote this and if perhaps the story behind this message could lead to the reason the asylum was abandoned in the first place. And finally, number 1 now, we have the bunker. Now for me, a bunker is basically a huge creepy basement with nothing above it. It's like a super basement. In 2014, an Imgur user shared a story and pictures from when they visited a friend in northern Germany. In the woods, they found an abandoned bunker. They followed the endless hospital-like hallways. As they ventured deeper and deeper, they found graffiti on the walls with words like die and help. Eventually, they came across a huge yellow vault door that had been ripped off its hinges. A worrying sight to see. What could have been that powerful? A little further on, they found the creepiest writing so far. lock, a message in German that translates to "Hello Satan, I love you." It wasn't long before they just turned back. That clearly isn't a place you want to stick around in for too long.
Coming in at number 10, we have a spooky chapel. So this is terrifying. In Telford, UK, Pat and Diane Fowler wondered what was inside a square box seal next to a wall at the bottom level of their house. They opened it up and then they found a metal grill in their floor. Eventually, they went below the grill and found a totally eerie stone chamber that looked like an old chapel. It even had a crucifix on the floor. They then found that there was a staircase leading into a cupboard in another area of the house. Weird. Coming in at number 9, we have mythical creatures. According to YouTube channel Incredible News E3, some strange creatures were found in a basement of a mansion in the UK. Allegedly in the 60s in London, an old mansion belonging to a Thomas Theodore Merrillin was being prepared for demolition. As people were searching and doing a final check, wooden boxes were found in the basement. Now inside these wooden boxes were what looked like alien and fairy carcasses. They now reside in the Maryland Museum. Now the museum does exist, but I'm calling fake news all over the findings. I'm sure that they were weird things in the boxes, but they to me look a bit like models. Coming in at number 4 of the top 10 insane things found in a basement, we have a stranger. Like, hello there, and who are you, and why are you in my basement? This is very much a question that these Ohio State University kids had on their lips when they discovered a secret door in their basement that then led to a secret bedroom in which a mystery man called Jeremy was living in. Jeremy, what are you doing there? The group of lads thought that there was a ghost in the house that opened the oven and the cupboard doors, but it turns out it was Jeremy. This sounds way too good to be true. One museum found that they were sitting on a hidden wine vault, and that is coming into number 3. Researchers at New Jersey's Keene University discovered a hidden wine vault in the basement of the Liberty Hall History Museum. There were 50 bottles of wine and other spirits that date back 300 years, just like sitting there. The loot included a 1796 case of Madeira. Now this wine is known for its longevity, so it probably still tastes good. There was also a whole bunch of Cuban cigars. What a finding. Coming in at number 2, we have NASA secrets. Oh my. In 2015, a dealer was cleaning out a Pittsburgh basement of a deceased IBM engineer who worked for NASA during the space race era. So this was from the late 50s to the mid 70s. They found a whole load of NASA files on 2 giant computers. 93 of the tapes that they found had data about Pioneer 10 and Pioneer 11. Now these were flyby missions to Jupiter and Saturn. How cool is that? Finally, coming in at number 1, this scares me a lot. Somebody found a dozen live sharks in a basement. Officers from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation searched a home in LaGrangeville. The authorities found a homemade pool in the basement filled with 7 live sand sharks and a dead hammerhead shark and other smaller sharks. The sharks were caught and taken to the Long Island Aquarium. Seriously though, who keeps sharks in their basement? No!
Starting us off with number 10 is the eye. Now this one was shared by Redditor JL Kanga23, who said this happened when she was 12 years old. One of her mum's friends from church asked if she and some others would come over and pray all over his house. Apparently as soon as he moved in, things just changed. His wife's personality changed completely, he had started seeing shadows himself, and his daughter just started acting very bizarre as well. Now their house had a storm basement that he'd never gone into because he always got an evil feeling from it. The group got to his house and the user's mum had brought her along because she was too young to be left at home. Now they opened the basement to find a bunch of ritualistic or voodoo-like symbols that had been graffitied onto the walls. Already that would have been a red flag for me. I would have been like, nah, B, miss me with that shit. Now there was one eye symbol that the user could never get out of her mind even till this day. And that wasn't even the worst part. Scattered all around the floor were dozens and dozens of dried out dead animals. I'm talking cats, rabbits, chickens, dogs, you name it, they were there. There's no way they had gotten down there themselves since there weren't any chickens in the town anyway, so someone purposely brought them there for whatever purpose. And clearly some ritualistic had been going on down there, so no wonder all that bad juju infected his entire family. I get it.
Next up at number 5, the Tombstone. Now I don't know about you guys, but if I found a tombstone in my basement, I'd probably move out that same day and put my house up for sale. That's just some bad juju. Bad vibes. Not here for it. So the story here is Derek Kruk was exploring his basement and stumbled upon something he hadn't noticed before on the floor. After cleaning the area and wiping the floor of the dust and whatever else was on the floor, Derek realized he had discovered a tombstone in his basement. Was the house he was living in built on top of someone's body? Could it be haunted? So many questions, and I have all the answers. No. Derek called up some friends to tell them about his discovery, and upon doing some digging, no pun intended, they soon learned the tomb belonged to Jabez Hardin, who fought in the War of 1812. However, after help from local resident Chip Mangio, who did some of his own research, it was determined that this war veteran actually wasn't buried beneath the home. Chip, who is the head of a local charitable organization that helps assist local charities, inspected every tomb at a local cemetery until he came across Hardin's. Chip went on to explain Hardin's old stone was most likely given away after his new stone was created. He went on to say, gravestones travel. You'll actually find gravestones as part of waterspouts or walkways because they're still good stones and they're expensive. So at the end of the day, Derek can rest easy knowing his house wasn't built on a grave, but still, knowing your house was made partly with tombstone, even if the house isn't haunted, the basement has got to be redone. Bad stuff's happening down there, I can promise you that right now.
Now number 4 is the painting. This one's from Reddit user Fonzie327, who said in his junior year of college he moved into a house with his best friend. They started moving their boxes into the house and put a bunch of things in the basement. Now the basement itself was basically this unfinished concrete square that contained a smaller room inside of it that had the water heater and other pipes in it. Now the boys started looking around and started checking out what's already there, and they found a huge painting in the smaller room. It's about 3 feet tall, and when they turn it around they see the creepiest thing ever. The painting is of a guy wearing a pink onesie and the hood has bunny ears on it. He's holding a knife in his hand that's pointed at his own stomach, kind of like he's about to stab himself, and of course he's got the biggest smile on his face ever. Now I get art is subjective and fair enough, I don't have the right to be like that's creepy, but here's the mic drop moment we're waiting for. Now they realize the boy in the painting is being painted from the inside of the smaller room looking onto the rest of the basement. The doorway he's leaning on is exactly the same as the one in the basement, and so they were like, hell no, we're getting out of here, and they probably just broke their lease. That's what I would do, to be honest.
At number 3, the Urban Explorer. Our friend here, who we'll call Jeff, had a knack for exploring that which is now abandoned. I don't know why, but when things are abandoned, there's usually a good reason for it. And in this case, it was probably what this guy found in the basement. So the story goes, Jeff here and his pal Josh went venturing into an old abandoned farmhouse about an hour from their hometown. Rumor had it this farmhouse was once used for a cult, so you know things were gonna get weird. At first when they walked in, Josh found a photo of the family who the 2 explorers believed used to live there. However, their faces in the photo were scratched out. Weird. As the 2 went downstairs, Jeff, making his way down the old creaky wooden stairs, would find himself going right down to the basement floor as the 5th step from the bottom caved in. It took a moment for Jeff to realize what had happened. He was standing in a basement with water up to his ankles, as well as cuts and a ton of splinters in both legs. The agonizing pain started to spread up to Jeff's torso, and he started to feel dizzy. Before he blacked out, Jeff surveyed the basement and believes he saw a face and some movement in a dark corner. Upon waking up, he found out that Josh had called 911, which was the right call. Jeff needed to be vaccinated, stitched up, and get the splinters taken out of his legs. To this day, he doesn't know what he saw in that basement, but I don't think he'll be going back anytime soon to find out. And finally, number 1, the confinement room. Now this one really hit close to home because I had never heard of this story, yet it happened when I was 17 years old and in Pickering, which is about an hour away from where I grew up. So back in November of 2011, contractors working on an old abandoned home made a scary discovery in the basement. What was described as a confinement styled room with a thick door and several locks was enough to start a police investigation. Reports claimed the house hadn't been lived in since 2006, but this room looked as if it had been constructed within the last year or 2. Detective Darren Short explained, I can't get into what was in the room, but the way it was constructed, the time and effort put into it, and the materials used clearly indicated it was a room designed to hold somebody in. There was a locking mechanism nobody would be able to penetrate or breach. The previous homeowners had nothing to do with the newly constructed room, and police never did solve the curious case. So what were they trying to hide in there? What was someone trying to keep in there really is the more important question. Creepy. Scary. Basement I don't want to travel to, because that's a scary basement.